Do you regret not having kids?
I got up in age and it was going to be a little too old. And I remember I went to my doctor and around 48 is when I decided, like,
Wait a minute.
At 48.
You come ambling in at 48.
Right, saying, I want to freeze my eggs. And my doctor said, your eggs are
After
so
she
old.
got off the floor.
Right. Your eggs are so old that they're probably scrambled. And if you had
That's
a
messed
kid,
up.
the kid,
Is that cold?
and you know who the doctor is because we had the same doctor.
Cold-blooded.
Cold-blooded.
Yeah.
And she said if you had a baby, it would come out on a walker already. So there's other methods that we can make you a mother if you really want it. So it was, yeah. What about you? Did you regret not having kids?
Well, I was married and, I had a few shots at the target, but, I had no bullseye.
Well, I tell you what, we didn't have children of our body, but we have children named after us because of this show.
We do indeed. I have met Maxes, and that's a really cool thing. I've met Erica's.
I've met 5 Sinclairs. It's so warm. And like, my name is Sinclair, woo, woo, woo. Like, who's the real Sinclair here, boo, boo? It's so sweet.
No, I think it's cool. Mm-hmm. As long as they don't come after us looking for child support. Welcome back.
Yes.
Welcome back to Reliving Single, the official, unofficial Living Single rewatch podcast.
Yes. We were talking about kids, and I'm working on a show with kids right now. It's called Vampirina.
Okay.
And I was very concerned, and the kids are amazing. They're professional. They know their lines. So I get a chance to work with these kids all day long. It's kind of cool. Yeah. So wait a minute, you were a child actor, weren't you?
I was 14 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So I was discovered in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. I was going to New Freedom Theater. It was a 6-week program. Mm-hmm. And in the 5th week of this program, a movie came to town. It was a Merchant Ivory film called My Little Girl. Mm-hmm. And they were looking for girls to be in this film. Mm-hmm. And they encouraged us, because we were all going to school, to audition. And so I showed up, 5 o'clock in the morning. I was second in line. And by the time they opened the doors, maybe around 8 or so, the line wrapped around several times. They kept switching us back and forth with each other and putting us together. And somewhere in the middle of the afternoon, they handed me a new script and they said, we want you to take a look at this role. And I was a little disappointed because I was like, oh, no, not. But girl, that was the lead role. Mm-hmm. And after several screen tests, they gave me the role.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of my career. And it was interesting because that was my first time on a set professionally. My mother could not be with me. I was alone on set a lot. Yeah. But you have co-stars, and they partially, I think, are responsible for raising me and giving me some of the best set habits and work habits I could get. And I learned a lot of wonderful things from those
Beautiful
actors.
On-the-job training, right?
On the job.
That's what it really happens. You learn all the best stuff on the set.
Yeah, especially if it's measured. I think their expectation was that whatever I had, they didn't want to mess with.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they didn't want to give me acting notes. They just want to make sure I was all right.
We're bringing all this up because this is the episode where we had our first kids on the set.
Right.
Our first kids on the show. And I remember that they were real pros. They had it together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they were.
It's time for the rewind, where we watch and relive Living Single with you. So this week we're watching a season 1, episode 8, A Living Single with Children. And the storyline is that Regine begins seriously dating another perfect man, Patrick, played by the wonderful Dominic Hoffman, who you all will recognize from A Different World and other things. Now, he's not married, but he does have a child. And then the B story is that Kyle becomes a member of a Big Brother program, and here come our child actors. We have Raven Kelly, who you all will recognize as young Anna Mae Bullock from What's Love Got to Do with It. Remember, she was singing.
She was
and
great.
Yeah,
yes.
This little light of mine. They took her out the church or whatever. It's beautifully played by her. And then we had Gary Leroy Gray, who people will recognize from The Cosby Show and a bunch of other shows.
And I just realized that the episode title, Living Single with Children, is, of course, to mimic and mirror Married with Children, which was the big hit then there. Yeah.
I just got that. Anyway, so in this episode, TC became a mentor. Listen, TC has mentored before, and so he really loved this storyline. I remember him really getting into this. On our set, we had to be really careful not to curse and carry on.
Yeah.
We had to behave ourselves.
We had to behave ourselves and make
for the
sure that we
kids.
were good role models,
Right.
at least for that week.
At least for 1 week.
Come on in.
Oh, Patrick! You devil dropping by unannounced. Oh, and me looking such a mess.
You should have seen her 10 seconds ago.
I think you look great. These are for you. I was going to have them delivered, but I wanted to see the look on your face when you got them.
Do you have any brothers?
Ignore my desperate roommates. Can I get you some coffee?
No, sorry, I can't stay. I have to pick up my daughter from dance class. But, it's nice to meet you all. I'll call you later.
I'm just realizing she answered the door in a negligee.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, what? I was just waiting for you
right.
in this purple
Looking a mess.
silk, you know.
Yes. Because what did she have on before? A whole other thing. And the bandana and the whole thing just went upstairs to get
What
And
in
he
the world?
Yes. And
But we
open
never
like,
said-
oh, oops.
But how come we never said anything about it?
We didn't say a word, but it was perfect.
You know, Hussyville is real
you
for
calling
Kim.
her
But for
hussy.
her character.
Right. She just came downstairs like, what are you doing here?
That's ridiculous.
Well, because listen, he's a perfect man. She knew that he had a kid, but
Yes.
we didn't know.
Yeah, and Overton likes him.
Overton likes him because he has that moment like, all
Yes.
right. And let's talk about also how she's dressed. You know, she's not wearing a wig. She just has her braids and just
She doesn't
very
need to
simple.
wear a wig when you're wearing two breasts in a negligee. I mean, you know, don't
That's
gild the lily.
Exactly.
Guess we're not going to the zoo today, huh?
No, Kevin, that's what the books are for, to prepare you for the zoo. I want you to learn all about the animals.
They're furry and they have teeth. I just want to feed them.
Come on, when we get upstairs, we'll start with the marsupials. Yeah.
Uncle Obi!
Hey, man. Come on, saw it up. Hit the rock. Take it down.
Kevin, what do you say we go upstairs and check out my record collection?
But all we ever do is look at them.
Well, that's because they're collector's items.
Uncle Obi lets me play them.
No, he doesn't.
Wow. So we also see that Kyle is part of the Big Brother program.
Right.
And the little kid is cute and adorable.
Adorable.
But like, I mean, my goodness. He loves Overton more than he likes Kyle.
So they're establishing that he's been a big brother to this little boy for a while because
Right.
there's obviously a relationship there, like
Yeah.
to what you're going to have to learn before we go have fun.
Yeah, and plus, you know, when he sees Overton, he does the handyman greeting and
Right,
everything. So
right.
yeah, they know each other a bit.
Right.
To do this type of, cosplay that they're in, as parents, they chose the two most superficial characters, which would be Regine and Kyle.
And sets up an incredible conflict, which we're about to really see.
The kids are built with BS detectors. And she's gonna go off like a car alarm when she meets you.
Okay, all right, nobody move. Hi.
Camille, this is the very nice lady I told you about, and her name is Regine.
Easy for you.
Oh, well, thank you. Why don't you call me Auntie Regine?
Daddy, she's pretty.
Call me Mommy.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So first of all, Kim Fields looks just like her mom in that
Just
season.
like
in that scene. I'm
heard.
sorry. Right.
It's actually weird.
It's really
She looks so much like her mom that I put on my glasses to
make sure it was really
that
her.
it was her.
That's number one. I have a question. Was the car honk an ad lib?
I think so, yes.
I think so.
Yes.
And you kept going. And I want to
And I
know if
kept
her
going.
feather dusting you was an ad lib or was that in the script? Do you remember? That was so good.
I actually don't think that they put feather dusters in there, but you know what? At the beginning of every scene, they'd say, what do you guys want to be doing? And sometimes they'd give us a piece of business.
Mm-hmm.
So after we read the script, first thing we do is a rehearsal, and we're staging each of the scenes.
Where
And
we're sitting, where we're
where
going to
we're-
stand, where we're going to walk, when do we walk?
Right.
And then you got to fill in the blanks with props. And
Who was our prop guy?
Stevie Props. we used to
Stevie
call him.
Props.
Yes.
And he would come in and he'd say, what do you want, Eric? And I said, give me my glasses and a newspaper, and I'll just be sitting here and read.
It makes it rich and wonderful. So now we got to get into the depth of what's going on. She is about to audition to be a mom, and she's decided that money will be fine.
You can buy kids off, which you can.
I
They are
guess so.
easy customers.
Are they really?
Well, of course, you buy kids food or sugar. You know, they'll do anything.
Does that mean that they're going to comply over the course of time? You still need to.
Listen, they bribe them. That's a bribe.
That's a bribe.
They,
Okay,
they do it for a little while, but then they're manipulating you.
Right.
Kids are very clever.
Once they figure out that, I can get something out of. And so she's willing to bribe this kid because she wants this man so bad.
Exactly.
Okay.
So she thinks she can, but then suddenly who comes in the door? Now this beautiful raven, Kelly, comes in with these yellow daffodils,
Yes.
with this bright smile, and she hands them over to Regine, and Regine falls apart.
Melts. And then
because
she
she's,
goes,
Daddy,
she's pretty.
Boom.
Boom. Call me mommy.
Call me mommy.
Who's bribing who?
Who's bribing who?
And so there we have, Kim Fields as Regine, dressed down, dressed simply, just a little bit of baby hair in her braids.
She's not going to be the vamp right now. She's trying to look like she's wholesome.
Right.
That's her version of Little House on the Prairie.
Right.
Tuck it all away. Maybe that's why, in a way, she looked like her mother, because her mother would be, clothed.
Right. Jeans and very, I'm down to earth. Look at me.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we were all doing that, because that was the week that we were on our best behavior.
Right.
And, making sure that we were taking care of them when they came in. They didn't see us, acting a fool.
Right.
Well, I didn't know they made bougie in such small sizes.
We went shopping.
We bought pajamas for our sleepover.
Sleepover? Darling Camille, why don't you go see what Sinclair is doing?
Come on, I'm going to show you how the computer works.
Why is little Thumbelina sleeping at our house?
Patrick called, right? With some story about having to stay overnight on business.
Khadijah, this is it. This is the test.
What test?
To see if I can handle motherhood. And I will not fail.
And then you press F10 for save.
Thanks. I better write that down.
Camille, honey, let's go.
Okay, let me know if you have any more questions.
Smooches.
Yep.
Here she comes in.
Come
As a
on.
mini Regine.
She's a mini-me.
She's having this effect on her. She's going to, train her up, show her how to go shopping.
Yeah.
How to look gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I love
They're
that
going to have
line.
a sleepover?
Yeah, they're about to
Like,
have a
who wants to
sleepover.
have a sleepover with the kid?
She's auditioning.
She is.
And
She's going all the way.
Right. And she tells us that, he pretends like he needs to do something else while I take care. This is my chance.
Right. But she's also appealing to Regine's vanity. Listen, suddenly you have a mirror in front of you that acts like you. You're falling more in love with the child
Of course.
than with the
of
man,
course.
which is probably what needs to happen in order for you to date the man.
Mhm.
You know what I love? In that scene, we see Latifah, and they got her dressed in the vest, whatever. But I love how Latifah walks. She said, "Dearest Camille." Isn't there something always smooth about that girl?
She's actually very smooth. Maybe they don't know it yet because this is the first time you're seeing her week after week after week on a show, but we got to see her be very feminine and very smooth.
And the way she strides
Yes,
across.
yes.
She's in a brisk
You're a
walk.
darling. Right,
Everything
right,
about her is pretty royal.
It is.
Including her
always.
skin and her hair. She's golden.
I've always said that once she's on a red carpet, she can shut it down.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she
Move
knows
out
how
of
to
the way.
get out of the way.
Remove
The queen has
yourself.
arrived.
You work with a person, but then also you get to look back and
And
admire
see-
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But when she goes, Camille, darling, since she's called, because look how she's dressed.
Dude.
And I was like, come on, let me show you how the computer works. And I love that moment. Like, she's showing me how the computer works. Did you know Sinclair don't know?
But you know what? And by the way, nowadays, all these kids are showing us how the computer works.
Absolutely,
You know what? That right
absolutely.
there was a futurist vision
Absolutely.
that we would all be as dumb as Sinclair when it came to
As dumb as
computers.
Sinclair.
Excuse, not dumb,
I know
ignorant.
what you mean. I know.
Ignorant. Is that a better word?
Ill-informed.
Ill-informed.
Whatever you say.
Hey,
Hey.
I thought you were with Kevin today.
Nah, they sent me a lemon. The kid's with Uncle Obie again. No, it's not him, Regine. It's me. I just can't seem to communicate with him.
Well, Kyle, being a parent isn't easy. I mean, you've got to walk a delicate balance between what makes the child happy and that which will nurture and bring forth a well-rounded human being.
What am I gonna do?
Have you tried shopping?
No.
Well, then how can you possibly say you've spent quality time with him?
Maybe things have been too structured. I mean, after all, he's just a kid, right? Yeah, he just wants to have fun.
Well, that's not what I meant, but that's what you got out of it, eh? Well, hello.
Oh, just the little man I wanted to see. Come here, buddy. You know what? From now on, we're just gonna have fun. And we're not even gonna read about it first.
Cool.
Oh, watch dog.
That way.
All right.
Yay.
So now we're seeing a different approach to parenting. And I love how Regine has now become an expert
Please.
on what to do and what to say and the ways and beings. And in the end, just take him shopping.
Well,
Does that
Kyle
work for
needs
her?
help, or he feels like he needs help, so he comes
Right.
and confides that, it's not working out with Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
He says, they sent me a lemon.
I love that so much.
I love that.
And I love that he quickly figures out, well, maybe it's not him, maybe it's me.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that we now have this image of this Black man with this kid and wanting to
right.
to teach this kid and be with this kid. And it's really warm and sweet. And he really wants to figure it out after calling him a lemon.
And there is a little difference between their parenting styles, because Kyle realizes that he wants to connect with the kid. He really needs to connect. But maybe there's a difference because Regine has connected with her kid, even if it's superficial or we think it's superficial. Not for her. That's who she is. She really digs that this child is liking shopping and dressing like her and putting on all the scarves and all of that. So that's really cool.
Who's got my golden arm?
Max. Yeah. What? Ghost story over? Ooh, scary. That was fun. Good night.
Max, we're all going to stay here tonight and sleep on the floor in sleeping bags.
Yeah, right.
Wait a minute. Max, the whole point of the sleepover was to give Camille some female influence.
All right, okay. Camille, what do you think about boys?
Yuck.
Hold on to that thought. My work here is done. Good night.
All right, Sinclair.
I'm sorry, but that ghost story really got to me. I can't sleep this close to the front door.
I had fun today.
Well, I'm glad you had fun today. Make sure you mention that to your daddy. Okay, time for bed. Sleep tight, sweetie.
Good night. Regine,
What?
I have a tummy ache.
What?
My tummy hurts.
Well, what do you usually do when your tummy hurts?
My daddy gives me the pink stuff.
Pink stuff. Khadijah! Hey, we got any pink stuff?
Now the sleepover has begun. We're fully
Yep.
in it. And we have, this scary story happening. And I got to say, I kind of like a real child next to Sinclair's childlike wonder. I'm really buying this scary story. Who took my golden arm? Yeah, I
you
had
do
a
it
good
great
time with
because
that.
I love the pan over where to see that you're scared, like for real. Yeah, by the way, everybody abandons the sleepover, leaving Regine with this child. And then hijinks ensue because guess what?
Regine, I have a tummy ache. Now, I guess we couldn't say Pepto-Bismol on the show, so we just go the pink stuff.
And everybody knows what that is.
They know exactly what it is. And you can't say the name of a product without having to pay for the rights to say the name of a product. So we can say it here because this is a podcast and we ain't gonna get in no trouble. But on a show like that, you'd have to pay for the rights to say Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah,
So-
or they would be an ad that was sort of inserted, embedded in there. So they're paying you to say their product. But however it is, pink stuff has to suffice.
And we know
everybody
what it
knows
is.
what pink stuff
Right,
is.
the pink stuff.
Actually, when I think about it, I actually getting queasy right now. I hope I don't throw up. I'm not even kidding you. Like
Really?
Ugh.
You don't like the pink stuff?
No, I can actually smell it. Let's move on.
Okay.
Did you have a good time?
Camille is the sweetest, cutest kid God has ever made.
She wore you out, huh?
No! Yeah. And to tell you the truth, I'm not ready to be a mother.
Whoa. Slow down, Regine. I'm not looking for a wife.
Yeah, but don't you need a mother for Camille?
What Camille needs is a good parent. And for the record, there's a very nice female judge in family court seems to think that I can raise Camille just fine by myself.
So then this is it, huh?
You really like to jump to conclusions, don't you?
Well, yeah, I guess I do.
Regine, don't you know that Camille is crazy about you?
Well, I'm crazy about Camille, too.
So then maybe the three of us can continue to see each other.
Saturday. Prospect Park.
We'll have a picnic.
I'll bring a cake. You bring the pink stuff.
You know, listen, let me see. Dominic Hoffman, he's got some of the best nostrils in the business.
He does have a nice, strong
Absolutely. I love his strong nose. I've always loved noses.
Yeah.
And Dominic has a great nose. So,
All
of
the things.
course, she's driving that home.
She's got good taste.
She's got
and
good
so
taste.
does he.
Again, that great casting.
Right.
By the way, that conversation, being honest with someone who you dig and telling them that maybe that's not for you or maybe disappointing them in a very serious segment of their life or category, that takes courage. And Regine did always tell people what she did or did not want.
Absolutely.
And nowadays, I get the feeling that a lot of people hide that and then they get caught up and they haven't had those discussions and they're in too deep or suddenly it becomes a point of resistance and they haven't really considered what it would be.
But that's also a really good character point because we see her, if you look at first blush, you'll see someone who's, superficial and, maybe gold diggery or, I want a husband. But that was a point of integrity and character. So just so you know, I'm really not ready for all this and I'm not sure this is going to work out.
Right.
And that honesty was important to witness her display.
I mean, she was in green pajamas, but you know what? That's how she sleeps. You just said it.
Maybe so.
I mean, you were in like pajamas of like
I'm
like
sure
the
they had-
Legoland or something.
Right.
Could I say
And
that?
they were fun and
And
colorful
woolly.
and of course.
Did they have
flannelly.
feetsies? Did they have feets?
probably did. They probably
Good
did.
God.
The child's
I
life.
bet you Max sleeps in the nude. I sleep in the nude.
I
so
sleep
I'm
in the
gonna
nude
just-
too.
Yeah, I gotta let it out.
I gotta let it all breathe.
Come on. All day, they have you strapped in.
For years, I've been sleeping in the nude.
Oh,
it's wonderful.
It's wonderful.
freeing.
And if you have a fan and it blows, you understand? There's a whole sort of restoration and reparation that happens at night.
Freedom.
Thank you, Lord.
But here's the other piece of the genius of that. Not only is it freedom and lets the air circulate, when you get up in the morning, the first thing you see in the mirror is your naked body. And it's a way of loving on yourself. Like, this is what I look like. Good morning. Let me go pee or take my shower,
Exactly.
whatever.
It's also a
really
reality
beautiful.
check.
But then there's that. Do you know
Good
my
morning,
mo-
gorgeous.
My mother to this day thanks me for turning her on. She said, every once in a while, she'll go, Kim, I'm so glad you told me to sleep in the nude. She's 94 and sleeps
Come
in the
on.
nude. I think about in her 70s, I was like, Ma, you need to sleep. Kim, I feel so free.
You are free.
Freedom,
You
yes.
know, there might be a time I might need a diaper or two. But right now, I'm going to sleep in the nude. And you know what? I actually gifted that to my nieces. One of my
Yes.
nieces says that she said she heard that and then she started sleeping in the nude.
Freedom.
You know what? America, let it loose.
Let it loose.
Let it loose.
Let it
Sleep
free.
in the nude. You're welcome.
Yes.
We help America every day, don't we? My God, this is a public service.
When the time is right, honey, I'm having me a whole bunch of babies. My genes are too good to waste.
How do you know when the time is right?
Get yourself together first. I'm gonna build up Flavor by radio stations, television networks. I'm gonna have a whole communications empire that will run itself, giving me the time to raise a family. Figure I'll be about 29. Well, I know I want children, but I probably won't be ready until my feet are in the stirrups and the doctor is saying I can see the head push.
Max, as into your career as you are, you will probably never have children.
Yes, well, you underestimate me, my little friend. Because whatever I do well. And if my career and my child conflict, I will quit.
You'd give up law?
No, I'd give the kid to Khadijah.
Hey.
So I love this scene because we all get to explore what it would be like to be a mom and what it would be
Yeah.
like for us and to decide. And I love that Khadijah has this grand vision of all this empire she's going to build, and she's going to do it before she's 29.
Come on.
I love it.
And that's real.
The drive and ambition.
Ambition, yeah. And they're all talking about what they would do if they would have kids.
Right.
Which is, I guess it's a conversation that you should have.
You should have, and this is the time to be having it. And and can I have it all at the same time? And I love that you would have a child, and if you couldn't handle it, you just give it to Khadijah. One of the things I love about this highlights for me, my parents decided to wait. They had finished their schooling, and they decided to wait 7 years. And so consequently, my parents were 34 when I was born, which at that time was considered old. Like nowadays, it's no big deal. But back then, all of my mother's friends had their babies already. They waited till they were 34 years old.
Wow. So how many kids do you think each character would actually have in their lives? Like, if they had kids. What would Sinclair have? How many?
Sinclair would have, well, we had established later on in the show that Sinclair and Overton would have twins, and their names would be Sincloverton and Overclair. But I would think 4 children. I think she and Overton would have at least 4 kids.
Okay, it seems right.
Right.
Although, y'all look like you were so hard up by the time you did get together, you would just have
1,000.
Because you would just be,
Let's go. Let's go. What do you think about for your character?
I think Max plans everything and is pretty organized, and she doesn't like surprises. So I think if she had one, that's good.
But what happens at the end of the series is that she gets the surprise. No, but she goes to get. She goes
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there.
I think Khadijah would always be having them more than she thinks. You know why?
Why?
Because I think she would forget when she was ovulating. And be so lost that suddenly she'd be pregnant again and go, how did this happen? Well, because she wasn't watching the moon
at work.
cycles,
Okay,
man.
Okay.
And she got caught up. Oh, thanks for your 7th kid. What's going on?
Okay, but by that time she's a media mogul and she's got access to nannies.
There's
and
nannies. There's a whole
no
contingent.
hardship
She's
there,
got
okay?
she's got it all scheduled and
What about Regine once she finally figures it out?
Part of me wants to put like a narrative on her that perhaps she'd be one that maybe wanted it but didn't have it.
Oh.
Because we don't talk about, you don't always get what you plan for. But maybe she has some difficulty. And it might be interesting to see her adopt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
sort of
Okay.
pivot.
And
That would be great.
And what about Kyle?
Kyle by himself would have
3
a
kids, you think?
spreadsheet,
Okay.
know how much each would cost, how much their university would be, all those things. He definitely would not want to be surprised.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
3 sounds right because you have 2. Like you want a pair and a spare. You know what I mean?
I like it. This is a riveting conversation. I love
Riveting.
this. It's so riveting that it's time for the reverb. This is The Reverb, our time to reflect on the episode's themes and how they still echo throughout the culture. Questions. Do you think that you have to change yourself to become a mother?
You better change. I mean, whatever you were doing before.
It changes you.
It changes you. So yes, a woman, a
okay.
mother has to change because we have to change then. And so you think about the financial, you think about the career, you think about housing, you think about whether you're educated enough. Do you have enough degrees? You start thinking about it in a way that I think grounds you very quickly to reality and being pragmatic.
I'm going to say, too, there was a moment early on that I was like, I didn't think that I had everything. Somewhere in my brain, I thought I have to have everything in place before I even think about having a child. And maybe it's because my parents had or thought they had everything in place. There's a piece of me that was like, I'm not sure I thought that I would ever be ready, because I wanted to be able to deposit into a kid everything they would need in order to become a successful, happy, well-rounded adult. And I was like, childhood, even though my childhood was actually pretty lovely, it was a lot. I was like, do I have everything I need to have in place to deposit into this kid? And I think parents would admit that the kid comes and then you figure it out.
Well, that goes to mindset, and also, whether you're mentally prepared.
Right.
I think it'd be great to look into therapy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So once a baby comes, boom, we have the parenting, and let's ask ourselves, is it cultural and generational and both? What?
I think a lot plays into how you parent, how you become a parent. Like you are influenced by your parents. When my father was born, his mother died when he was like maybe 3 months old. So he didn't have his mom. He had a very strict, very intense father. And he told me later on that I knew that when I have my kids, I would talk to them. I would have a different experience with them. He had decided when he was a young man, I'm not going to beat them. Now, of course, I ended up getting a couple of spankings. I had to remind him, like, I thought you said you weren't going to spank your kids.
Well, it's certainly cultural and it's certainly generational, because depending on what generation you are. So I'm X.
Mm-hmm. I'm Boomer.
How are you Boomer?
Because I'm 62. I'm a young Boomer. I'm at the very end of Boomer.
Okay.
So I identify as Boomer X.
Boom.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
America. So if you think about it, the belt versus the timeout is a cultural thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it is generational, because there's a lot of people would say, well, a lot of children were raised with a belt and beating. But for African Americans, of course, we were talking about how difficult it was to separate the fact that if you did not parent your child a certain way and they misbehaved out in public, that could end their life. Right. That could put trouble on the community. You had to. So here's
that thought of spare the rod and spoil the child.
The belt was real, and that's how we were raised, with the belt, the threat of the belt. And so my mother, I think, who's an educated woman, spoke to us and wanted us to be able to speak. But she was also an orphan, and both my father was an orphan too. So they didn't necessarily have the best parenting around them. And even though she was raised by a woman who adopted her, she was abusive. And my mother was raised in a very horrible, hostile environment. And I don't need to say that she didn't do that to us, because she didn't. But the fact that she didn't was who she was. But often our parenting style comes from how we were raised and what happened to us.
Right. Early years got a few, whoopings with a belt from my dad, and eventually my mother stopped him. And although she had come from a Southern household where you would get the switch, but they then turned into the kind of parents that would talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And I was like, can I get that switch or that belt?
No.
One of the stories I love to tell is that my mother established what would now be called, soft parenting, or what's the term that we use?
It's called
gentle parenting, which is where you don't spank, you don't yell, you talk to the children. And I think my parents established, so my mother established that with me. And here was the thing. She established this trust. Like, if you come home and tell me that something happened before I find out about it from your teachers, or I find out about it in the street, or if like I was really out in the street, but let me know first. Come and tell me first. I will not punish you. And I remember the first time I didn't tell her something and she found out, I got in trouble. And I remember the first time I came home and said, Mommy, I have something to tell you. Thank you for coming and telling me. No punishment whatsoever. And so it established this beautiful trust that I could come and tell her anything, which she now says, you tell me too much. But I told her everything so at least she would know first. Yeah. Why don't we talk about the influence that TV and media has had on parenting? There's a lot of TV parents, right?
Yeah.
A lot of examples. We've got Leave It to Beaver and the Brady Bunch and Little House on the Prairie and, of course, The Cosby Show.
Well, because people think they've created gentle parenting, but actually, if you think about
all those shows I just mentioned, right?
They were, listen.
We certainly couldn't be whooping them on TV.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to have Laura Ingalls' dad.
Yeah,
Paul.
please.
I wanted Paul for
Michael
a father.
Landon, right?
Michael
Oh.
Landon was sexy as hell. Oh, my
All that
God.
hair, all that
You know.
hair.
Oh,
yeah.
Lord. Praise the Lord. Yeah, and then you had the difference between Sanford and Son and Good Times and the Jeffersons.
Right.
And they were the ones who were not the gentle parenting. You were going to get it from them. I mean, that's also a patriarchy,
Indeed.
you know,
in that
versus the
household, yeah.
matriarchy that had created in communities of color
Mhm.
by the fathers being targeted and taken from the home.
Indeed.
Or not even being allowed to be with their families. It wasn't because Black people are not strong family people. It's just that, again,
they were
that whole,
taken
you
out.
know, yeah, the
Which is
racism is
why Esther
a family
Roll
killer.
says that she fought to have a strong Black man in the household. She said that before James Evans, you had not seen
That's
a Black
right.
man in the household, and he was strong and he was powerful, and he was a tough parent too. He had a strong hand on JJ and his shenanigans, and protected their little girl Bernadette Stannis. That's not her name.
Yeah, you know, Thelma.
right? There was
I love me some Thelma.
Love some Thelma.
Yeah, and
she's-
Michael.
Right. So there
Yeah,
was a
but when
strong
it was
hand.
time, he pulled off that belt, and you saw
Yeah,
it.
indeed.
By the way, can we say something about the great John Amos and those corduroys?
Please, listen.
The corduroys. Oh my gosh.
I saw him one time
Like
on a talk show.
the
We were on a
sexiest
talk show
dad
together.
ever.
I said he could get it. He was
Oh, he
sharp.
would've got
Yeah,
it.
he would have got it.
He would have got it.
And Kunta Kinte, come on.
Kunta Kinte.
With his you talk about a beautiful nose.
Oh,
that was a
that one.
nose. Come on.
That came straight
Yeah.
from the king
yeah,
of the
yeah.
motherland.
Yeah.
It was fabulous.
We just lost him a little while ago, right?
Yeah, rest in power, brother.
Indeed,
Yeah, but
indeed.
he's one of my favorite TV fathers. I mean, we've been talking about, the real world versus real REEL world of parenting,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it was really deep. We actually got somebody who has done both and knows the score. Somebody who's been on the front line.
Of having a TV parent.
Yes, and being a TV child.
That's right.
All right.
Welcome to the stage,
Gary Leroy
Gray,
the actor
in
who
the
actually
house.
played
Oh,
Kevon on Today. Yes,
hello.
living
Oh, my
episode.
goodness.
How you doing, young man?
We haven't seen you since you played Kevon.
Look at them ears, though.
There
Right,
he
they
is.
still the same
They
size.
still
Come on, there. They're still the same side. And let's see the hack. Flip that toe forward.
Oh, wait now.
Well, you might
Living
notice that.
savage.
Yeah. You might notice
got a
the
theme
design
going
just
on.
a bit, just a
Love
bit.
it. You came in the cross colors. He came.
You
know.
old
Ready.
growed
Cross
up.
colors is my people. It reminds me of the time when I did the show. So.
Do you remember what it was like to work with us? Do you remember that?
Of course.
You
Of
do?
course. What's weird is you ask anybody, I tell them, I remember the time that I did Cosby Show, Living Single, Fresh Prince. And then after that, I don't remember anything. Like around 8 to maybe 14, a blur. But with you guys, I think
Interesting.
it's because of how influential it was to the rest of my career. But,
Oh,
Wow.
that
So
could be
listen, let's
said.
tell everybody what you worked on, which is shows like Family Matters, Fresh Prince, Fairly Odd Parents, and also Sandra and Elvin's son Nelson on The Cosby Show.
Dating me. You are dating me.
Well,
You're
you know what?
aging me.
We're just also trying to show how that show birthed you.
Yeah.
So you are in our hearts in a very special way. You know what I mean?
Appreciate
when
it.
they had children, it was like America had children.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
You know, and you showed up looking as beautiful and you so fantastic. What we were talking about this whole time is how pro these young actors are.
Yeah.
That you have the mental stamina, you can be pressure tested, but also that you can have the concentration and be able to do it over time.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
Thank you.
Well, did you have training?
No, I was just into everything as a little kid and told my mom, I pointed to the television and said, I want to do that. And I got put
Listen
into...
to your children.
Right.
Listen to your
Curious,
children.
Exactly.
But your mother respected you.
Yeah, I got instantly put into a charm school in Chicago, where I'm from. And she said, well, you're going to...
Oh,
Right,
look,
you
you
already
see
know.
Amber, our
You're already,
producers from Chicago.
South Side.
Shout out to Chicago, TC too.
Exactly. But once I did that, it was just, got the ball rolling. I did a fashion show in New York for, I believe, Tommy Hilfiger and Carsey Warner were the producers of the fashion show.
And Carsey
they
Warner,
said,
the producers of the
Cosby Show. And they said, the twins are going to grow up. And they said, we are looking next season to have them be toddlers. And my mom did not believe them. We flew back home.
She was like, you're right, whatever.
Got it, cool, thanks, that's a nice story. And we got a call from producers and Bill himself. And when they said, nope, we're serious and we're flying you back out here and to read with everybody. And The rest, as
And-
they say, is history.
And
so.
he spotted that talent in you and spotted that like little spark, a little
Yeah, I
something.
used to do a segment when I did fashion shows where I would, usually do a rapper of some sort. I think the song was, it was maybe an ODB song or Mariah Carey and ODB. Right. And I would
Old Dirty
walk down,
Bastard
I would
song?
walk down to it because it was just about the attitude, and I would have the jacket and I would have the glasses on. When you see videos of it, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I see why.
I was cute.
But yeah,
I was
but
talented.
yeah, that was my thing. So I would show up and show out.
Did it feel comfortable to you once you now were getting work and being on set? Did all that feel like this feels like home?
Definitely, instantly. I think
Right
when I
away.
did the Cosby Show, it was instantly something I knew I was meant to do. Even I was 3.5. My first.
He's a
time.
baby then.
I was a baby.
Baby,
But I was
baby.
talking.
And you can
reading,
remember that.
everything. Yeah, when I hit like 4 or 5, like last year of the show, my mom was like, "Well, this is ending. We can go back to Chicago, or you can continue this." And I was like, "No, I'm gonna keep going."
I love that she was
then
listening.
we moved out to
Yeah.
California, and we did 3 months, in Cali, 3 months back home. And the 3 months that I was out here for the first time, I booked Fresh Prince. And then you guys. Yeah, I did Cosby Show, Living Single, Fresh Prince, and Family Matters all before I turned 6. That was sort
He's
of
a
my-
marquee kid.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
marquee kid. I got to talk to you because a lot of
Yeah.
people, they're very curious about whether their kids, capable of doing. They have the capacity for it. But what goes into it? Because there's memorization. There's also direction. You have to be able to take direction.
Yes.
What do you remember about maybe how your parents worked with you or what you had to do specifically?
Yeah, I think the professionalism is key. So much going on, and so many things to get possibly wrong. So you want to make sure that your child is not the person that is the speed bump or the hindrance, on a set.
How do you know the person has the demeanor? Because anything can upset a child.
Of course. And it's all about listening. My family, my tribe was listening to me and being like, what do you need? Oh, you like to do this. Oh, great. Okay, so for a character like this, it might not be a good idea. There were things that I turned down at 4 and 5, because we just knew that it wasn't going to be something that would send me on a trajectory that I wouldn't like. I was supposed to be in, is it Menace to Society? Little boy on the tricycle has a gun at the end. That was supposed to be me, but we
So
turned it down.
you and your
Wait-
parents
wait a minute.
decided, like,
Yes.
no, that doesn't feel comfortable.
Doesn't
no.
fit. That's not
But
in
did you decide or did they decide?
both of us. Sat me down, talked me, said, "Hey, we don't play with guns in our household.
Oh my
so,
gosh, I love
this is
this.
going to be
Me too.
something that you're going to be doing on set. Would you be comfortable doing it?" That was the main, word used. Would you be comfortable?
And
Would
what
you
did
like
you
this?
say?
And I said, "No. Mommy doesn't want me to do it.
Ooh.
Mommy says
Come
that
on, a
it's not
mama's
good
boy.
for me. So I don't
Mama
want to
said.
I don't want to tell everybody that I do this." Because in my eyes, I was becoming that character, especially as a little kid. It's very
Right.
black and white. The tribe has to be the gate. You can see outside. You can see those things, but can you go outside? I'm going to keep you. I'm going to shield you from those things. They're out there. They're in full view. I'm going to tell you about how they are. I'm going to tell you what happens when you step outside that gate, but I'm not going to let you step outside that gate until I feel like you're ready and truly ready. And that's what happened with me. So
I'm hearing
love
that
it.
what's
love
the
it.
success of a child actor requires complete partnership with the parents. I'm
Because you're
thinking-
working. It's your face out there, but also it's your mental health.
Right.
Yes.
There are things that you may not be able to verbalize
Or even
that they're
understand
looking
yet.
for
Right.
shifts.
I mean, school, you think
Yeah.
about what child actors go through with schooling on set, 3 hours, don't know your teacher, no relationship, maybe have people in the classroom that you don't know, extras, other co-stars. That's a lot,
It is a lot.
It's a lot of uprooting, and I did that every 3 months almost. I was on a set and I had a different set teacher, and then I was going back to regular school. That was another thing that my tribe made sure that I did. I assimilated into normal, everyday child life. I went to a regular school, when I could, as much as I could. I was part of these clubs and these extracurricular activities that all kids should experience.
When I was 14, I did the back and forth, but I found that when I went back, there was some jealousy.
I was
and
about to
some-
ask.
Can you speak to that? Because that's real.
I think it definitely is a little bit easier for men or boys. I think women or girls coming back to that situation is terrible.
How do
You have one side that's like the cool side. That's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, you big dog, you Hollywood, oh, da da da.
Oh, okay.
Whereas a
You-
lot of times, from what I've seen, I had best friends that, were in school with me as well. Raven Kelly, who was also on the
On our
episode.
show. Did you know her at that
yes,
time?
Yes, I knew her before. we did the
because
episode.
y'all
Yeah.
auditioning.
Yes.
in-
Yeah. So you just face so much coming back as a woman, that, you think you're
You
cuter
cute.
now, you got
Yeah,
money.
you
Wow.
better.
It's a different conversation.
I
so
love that you have that perspective and enough. Feels like you even have enough. What's the word I'm looking for? Care about seeing that there was a difference.
it makes my life easier. I mean,
Oh,
like seriously.
okay.
No, I mean, I say that when, today on set, when I do a job, my whole purpose is to make everybody's job easier. Because if your job feels easy, mine does.
What about being a people pleaser? Because you learn how to take direction, but you also are sort of looking for like, is that the result they want?
Mhm.
And then as growing into an adult actor, but also finding your own space to sort of push against it and say, I have authority here
Agency.
too, an
Mhm.
agency.
Mhm.
How does that work?
That took me a while, personally. I think my parents, again, my tribe, made sure that I had enough, wherewithal, enough base to say, hey, these are your values. This is your core. Okay, you're getting older now. We're going to send you out into the world. I think I hit that wall that you're talking about around 18, where I was like, yo, like I gotta, there is something about my approach. There is something about my gigs, my everyday life that I have to keep a handle on, that I have to make sure is A-okay before I even go out to try to be someone else, because that's what we're doing. As actors, we are taking on a whole nother persona, other people's personas, especially. So when it comes to that, I had to make sure, hey, make sure the mental, all of this stuff is okay before I go out and to do all of that. But I didn't hit that until I was about 18, and I said, man, do I want to do these type of roles for the rest of my life? I think that was it. And I made a point to not go on certain auditions and to accept only others and to sort of see myself as an adult in this.
And what type of roles were you getting where you're trying to avoid?
Ooh, man.
Because when you were
Black
growing
friend, nerd.
Okay.
I was too light at the time to be seen as the normal quintessential black boy or black thug or
We spoke about that
role.
here.
We have.
So I was, going out on auditions in my early stages was very much, oh, you're only relegated to the nice black friend, or the black nerd
the
or,
nerd.
whatever. And that was it.
Let's speak about, because that's colorism.
Ah.
They're looking at your color, and because of your color, they're saying
They
that
put it
you
into a category.
right.
You wouldn't be in the hood. No. Wow, you're so well spoken. I mean, I got that on set.
It's kind of really messed up.
A little bit.
Well, it's frustrating because you said you hit 18
Yeah.
and you decided, I can't keep playing that role.
Mhm.
So then what happened, and how did you break out, and what did you do? And how do you make the transition? And are there years that are fallow where you're not playing as much because they don't
Yeah.
necessarily see you in a certain way?
Luckily, I got into voiceover around 10.
Okay,
10
smart.
years
So
old.
you did a sort of
Yeah.
side thing.
Yeah, you did like
I
a
was
lateral
able to.
move.
I was able to.
lateral,
Right. I was
oh.
able to sidestep and still kind of feel like I was still present
and still creative.
and still creative,
Okay. Mhm.
but also not doing the things that I felt were stifling me, which was a lot of the on-camera roles coming to me. So at that time, I was doing Fairly Odd Parents, so I was fully putting my creativity into that and my everything. On-camera stuff was just lacking. I was just getting the same stuff, and I got a audition across my desk for a movie called Noah's Ark: Jumping the Broom by a wonderful director, Patrick Ian Polk, and it was an LGBTQ project. So I was the first and newest cast member for the film, and that role was just a life changer for me.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Coming into right, I'm gonna be short. Coming into coming into it at 18, I was also in college. I had been in college for 2 years at that point because I graduated early, and I was just LGBTQ. That's
sure.
gay. And man, I got to that set and just was completely changed by the stories, the people, the things that were shared to me from cast members and crew members alike. and completely changed my perspective, not only on life, but on acting. You know, what does it mean for an actor to really take on a role that stretches them, that pushes them, but also doing something that means you have to have reverence for said thing. You know, yeah, it's outside of your wheelhouse, but that doesn't mean you can just kind of do anything. There is a culture to this that you have to adhere to.
To me, when I was performing, when I was younger, there was something I could do and I was good at it. And then there were times where I'd go, oh, this is acting.
Yeah.
Oh, now.
Now I get it. And I could feel the difference. And it wasn't, again, you can play the piano. You're born being able to play the piano, but now you're playing the notes and you're hearing the melodies and you know what I mean? And
Now you're riffing with people.
Yeah.
You're
And
able
suddenly
to-
you're like, I'm a
You
musician.
have mastery at that point.
Yeah,
Right.
I could play, but now I'm a musician and now we're having a conversation. And maybe that was
Definitely part of that. Yeah, I think it was really me never thinking to tackle that kind of role and being immersed in it. And we were filming on location in Nova Scotia. So also in a foreign place. And, you know,
Right.
I'm just like, whoa, this is just completely new experience. And I think that was just a shedding of everything that I felt like I'm an actor, you know, and it's like, no, well.
And that's one of the best things about being an actor is you go into places, you get to travel, you get to meet new people, you're very well
You
socialized.
get to learn about yourself.
Learn about yourself.
I was never here, so I don't know this part about me. I've never been in front of these people, so I don't know that part about me. You know, I've never said these words. I don't know that about. When I read the script and I'm like, whoa, like, you know, my character came out in the film. So having that situation of a
Fabulous.
character talking to their parents and saying, this is me, you know, like, what? Like, I've never had a character. Look, my characters laugh and get stuffed in lockers, and you know, even Stevens, you know what I mean. So,
and this one's coming out the closet,
right?
You
So
know,
this,
Well, I
that
love
was
that
great.
you had the bravery to, as
Yes,
a young
I was gonna say,
man,
and the
to say,
courage.
right, to go like, I don't want to do those roles or that roles or those roles, and then you were open to an opportunity to take on something that would be so far beyond playing the thug or so young.
He's discovering.
playing the playing the
what's beyond.
the geek. Like this is something a brand new world,
Yeah.
and that good for you.
I dislike the adage or the whole notion that child actors or child acting is just completely negative. I can't stand it.
I
There
can't,
are
I can't stand it
I can't
either.
stand it. There are so many
Thank you,
people
Gary.
who you do not know were child actors because they are successful.
Right.
You know, you don't hear those stories.
You
know,
don't.
you only
it's
hear the
like
bad things.
The other
And-
ones suck the oxygen out of the
Oh,
room.
yeah,
But the
of
truth is,
course.
I said I've met some of the most wonderful people who are child actors who go on to be directors and also give
Lawrence
society.
Fishburne, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Keke Palmer. I mean, we can
All
just
of them,
keep going. We can
politicians,
keep
doctors.
going.
You have leadership skills that other people don't have. You have communication skills that other people don't have.
Yep.
So even if you don't want to continue in entertainment,
There's so many things you can do
oh my gosh,
and be great at.
And the adaptability that you learn as a kid actor,
Oh,
unbelievable.
wait, hold
Yeah.
on. I have to speak on that.
Okay.
Adaptability as a Black actor growing up at that time. You had to do everything. You had to do everything. We had to sing, dance, act, all of that.
Come on.
All of that because we
on.
had to get seen in some way. So you had to be ready for that job that might come along, that might need a tap dancer, or that job that came along.
Multi-hyphenate.
Exactly. So I was doing all of that. I was doing 10 hours of dance a week at 4 years old that grew to 25 hours when I went to Debbie Allen's while being on the set of Even Stevens.
Amazing.
Coming off the set of Even Stevens at 4 o'clock, going to Dada at 4 to 9 p.m., getting up and doing it the next day.
Do you have any TV parents that you liked or TV parents that you would avoid? Now, TV parents meaning not the actors, but that you wouldn't want to be around.
TV character parents. Let's see. AJ's parents, I would want to emulate, of
You would
course,
emulate,
for
okay.
Fairly Odd Parents. He was a genius. He's got great, wealth. He has a friend who has fairy godparents. Like, what kid wouldn't want to be that guy? Like,
Yes.
I think that was something that we didn't see, especially in animation. Like a Black boy who's smart and has both parents and is doing well in life. Like, that wasn't a thing that was animated. One that I would avoid. Everyone says Moesha's dad.
Oh, he's just dead.
The Franks period. Frank Gallagher as well on Shameless. Just if you name Frank and a dad on TV,
It's not a good thing. I think that going back to the myth of the child star being a problem, look to the parents because it wasn't probably the business, it was the parents that sort of did this to the child. So I want to say that because so many people come to me and say, how can they get their child in the business, all of that. And I say, first thing I want to do is get you tested because your child may have the capacity and the talent, but you may not be the person to do it.
Right.
And how can you gauge as a parent whether they can do it if you're messed up?
Right.
You might bring a messed up person into their life. So how are your parents in this showbiz industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had so many people that were included in my tribe. I can't just say my parents, and I love them to
You've been
death.
using the term tribe.
Yeah,
so it
I
sounds
love
like you
them
had
to
Yeah,
death.
this is listen up, y'all. This is how
right.
you raise a showbiz kid.
You
Go
know,
on and drop the knowledge. Yes.
My biological mom and dad were actually at home in Chicago. My godmother, who I call mom, raised me, and that's the mom that you guys met, Tracy A. Vance. I just remember, again, it being a partnership, it being a listening, fest. What do you want? What do you need? Oh, that's what you like to do? They do X, Y, and Z. What about that? Presenting options, letting the child understand what those options are, so vital. Because if you just kind of shoehorn everything, you could be that parent. Just say, oh, well, you're going to make this money, so you got to do it, which I see all the time. You're going to get a kid who doesn't know what they're doing. 20 years old, 25 years old, and ends up, blowing everything or getting into the wrong, crowd or whatever. And
don't know who they are.
Like I said, I've seen it. So, I think that was really what it was just having people who understood that I was a kid who wanted to express myself and knew that I could do things to express myself. It was just about finding the right avenues and the right people and the right projects to do that for.
And then protecting you in a way so that you could have... Right?
Exactly. There's a kid who might fare better doing roles that I didn't do, and that's not... And every child is different. That's another thing. You cannot make a blueprint for every child. Right. It is not like that. Your child is going to tell you how they are and who they are. Right. You have to listen.
And what are you working on now?
Wow. Man, so much. I was thankful to be brought back to Fairly Odd Parents with A New Wish, their new show, and it's fantastic. Please go watch it. Please.
Awesome,
Okay,
awesome.
done.
Definitely.
It's,
Check
it's
it
on
out.
Netflix. The first half of the season is on Netflix, and the second half, I believe, is coming in July.
Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I am working on my own stuff.
Yes.
As a
I know
producer and a
as
writer,
a producer and writer,
Bravo.
I have so many things that
That's
we
the
are
key.
bringing to the table, and mainly animated because I feel like that space especially needs respect, and especially the feel that a lot of Black actors have found their home there. TC,
TC Carson.
God of
our own
War.
TC, exactly.
Well, he can be the God of War. I'll be the Queen of Chaos. You can come.
Don't worry, I got
Queen of
stuff
Chaos.
for y'all.
You got
Don't worry.
We got
give
jobs
something for
coming.
Lady Girl here.
Trust me.
Because I'm waiting.
trust me.
But you know what? I gotta say, you're in great shape too, and I just want to say,
Thank you. 38. I was just.
But I mean, don't say it because I'll choke you out
Thank you,
here.
thank
I mean, that's nothing. But I'm just saying, you're fresh-eyed and wonderfully healthy, and it obviously, grounded. And that right there is the story we need to tell about the journey of being in entertainment in this industry and how it's sort of creating now a creator who can use all your skill sets to build for other people.
Yes.
And
And I
I think
wouldn't have had
want
those
them in your
skills.
hands.
Yeah.
Because when you say
Thank you.
he's coming to get us, we'd say any day.
come get us.
No, look, don't say that.
Come on, Gary.
'cause
I am
I've
saying
been
it.
working very hard, and we have some things.
Give us a call.
Trust me.
Listen,
Queen of
we had
Chaos
to go for
here.
an interview. We got Josh
Thank you.
Russell.
Listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gary.
Gary, come on.
Thank you so
Yes,
much
thank
for
you
gracing
so
us.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
What a
you.
delicious surprise.
This is
To have-
fantastic.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for the cross colors.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's time for True Blue.
All right, this one is from Hope Skies. And she says, where did the signature statements come from? Was it writing or improv? So she's talking about the woo, 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 the smooches.
Okay.
Even Khadijah calling herself mother. Where did that come from?
I've said many, many times, I can tell you that woo, woo, woo came from my mother. Woo, woo, woo is what she would say when words would fail her. If you fell down or hurt yourself, woo, 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 sweetie, it's going to be all right. And it meant, I love you, I see you, I acknowledge you, I got you. And I ad-libbed that one day on the set, like woo, woo, Khadijah, woo, 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 Overton. And Yvette said, that's hysterical. What is that? I don't even know what that is, but it stayed in the show. It showed up often and forever.
And I remember seeing Mother, where Khadijah would say mother,
Yeah,
as written.
I don't
just
remember
did-
that.
So
Yeah,
many
okay.
of the statements in there are written. You know, it's a script. We can make them our own, but definitely Smooches was written.
I think Smooshes was written.
Yeah,
And then delivered beautifully.
And then there's another one that we found out that Overton said first.
Suki now.
Suki now. Yeah. So,
So
that's
that was
cool.
an ad lib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the way, I just want to say also, you know, people always call out the thing, Ride the Maverick.
Yes.
And Ride the Maverick is definitely something that is a joint thing. I am the Maverick. I've called myself the Maverick because Eric Alexander is from Arizona up in the mountains. And I was going around calling myself the Maverick. Then Yvette put it in the show as the campaign phrase
for the
alderwoman, Ride the Maverick. So people stream that out. But of course, Maxine Shaw, attorney at law, is something that people say all the time, and that is Yvette Lee Bowser. But for the most part, at least for me, many of the things that I've said or people attribute to me are written by the writers and Yvette.
Kim Fields alluded to your way of taking the script and taking the lines and saying them the way that you wanted to rather than the way that we know that the sitcom way. And so that when I say Ride the Maverick, I mean it was written. When I say Ride the Maverick, I mean it is how anybody else would have said it because that's how it's written. And how did you deliver it? Can I do you? When I say Ride the Maverick, I mean it. That is not the way it was. Those were the words, but that's not the way they expected it to come out. And so I want to give you your props for taking it and turning it on its head.
And also ignore the punctuation.
Ignore the
you're
punctuation.
You're not on this earth to just be a puppet.
Right.
And sometimes you can hear the way it's intended and agree with it, and then you start to explore what could it be? What makes me laugh? And there is nothing wrong with being selfish inside of your performance. I don't get to author the character. I don't get to author often the script, but I get to author how it's said or performed. And so that's where you see me colliding with the intentions of what the writer wants. And so you can say, yeah, Mary had a little lamb. Her feast was, Mary had a little lamb. And I can't help but look for those moments where
That
the
make it
musicality of it. Yeah, because it's sometimes much more fun.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm a preacher's daughter. And if you go to Church of God in Christ, where I was raised and my mother was the musical director of it, everything is about hello. You know, Black people. If we learn your name, the minute, hi, Kim. Oh, Kimmy C. Kimmy,
What's up, Kimmy
Kim Lee.
girl?
I mean, we immediately start to create the different space that you're going to live in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I am that person too.
So can you say the line for us right now? When I say Ride the Maverick, can I hear you say it?
When I say Ride the Maverick, I mean it. I don't know if that was it.
That's it. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Reliving Single.
Yes.
We want to thank Gary L. Gray for coming on our show and adding so much wisdom and insight. It was good
Yeah.
stuff.
You know, you want to really help us follow and like.
Yeah.
Follow and like wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. And send in your questions and comments to Reliving Single Podcast at heartbeat.com. We
Yeah.
want to hear from you.
Reliving Single is hosted by me, Eric Alexander.
And me, Kim Coles.
Reliving Single is a production of Heartbeat in association with Color Farm Media.
Executive produced by Kevin Hart, Jeff Clanagan, Eric Eddings, Leslie Guam, Erica Alexander, and Ben Arnon.
The show is produced by Kim Coles.
Amber Watson is our senior producer.
Our associate producer is Kenny Jackson.
Our video editor is Nee Kirschman.
Our sound engineers are Eric Hicks and Cedric Wilson.
Production supervision by Razak Boykin and Brett Calkins.
Additional production support from Alex Atkins and Z Taylor.
Special thanks to BK Augustine and Dr. E.J. Johnson.